Hello everybody, this is Chris from Acustica Audio, and today I'm going to show you how to tame a beast called Tiger, our first plugin based on the second generation Hyper technology, encompassing a superlative list of Acustica's most renowned compressors. The idea was to create a chameleon-like plugin that tries to imitate various hardware and software compressors, overcoming the limitations of each. With Tiger, we put together our best comp models and some very recent concepts to create the best possible experience for you. Tiger is a suite including two different GUIs to choose from. Tiger and Tiger Mix, based on a 3D Acustica Classic style GUI, and Tiger Flat and Tiger Mix Flat, based on a 2D Modern style GUI. Choose the GUI you prefer at the outset. The plugin will not automatically replicate these settings if you change the GUI at work started. Now let's dive into Tiger's main features. Here you have a long list of compression curves accurately sampled from the best analog compressors and software. We have found that this is a relatively rare added value in software implementations. The plugin implements the shapes of attack and release curves in the detectors from the best hardware we have measured over the years. With ASH mod and RSH mod, here you can modulate both the attack and the release of the compressor, allowing you to fine-tune the attack behavior to adapt it to any audio source. It's the first time we have included release modulation in one of our plugins. The hold functionality allows to best control the transients and the distortion for both the attack and release. This combined presence is also quite rare in software compressors. Tiger implements multiple variable weight detectors for handling transients simultaneously concerning the rest of the signal, along with a concept of a managed fast and slow compressor to balance aggressive and soft compressions within the same pattern precisely. The power control in the detectors manages transient response speed. In contrast to a purely peak or RMS compressor, Tiger can represent compressors that implement detectors based on variable pitch RMS power measurements. You can easily optimize the distortion in the presence of fast time constants with a circuit in the sidechain path through the control called Deep Space. The morphing control allows each of Tiger's dynamic elements to be seamlessly transformed from a compressor to a limiter to a saturator, while simultaneously handling the stereo link intuitively. Press this button to activate the sidechain EQ function. The sidechain functions are convenient in many applications. For example, it is possible to separate certain vocals and instruments from a mix using frequency-weight compression. Last but not least, you can improve the audio thanks to our high-quality and sophisticated oversampling, characterized by a particularly transient-friendly impulse response and zero-phase alteration. Now let's see many tips for using this powerful compressor at its best. Adjust the input left and input right controls to balance the input signals according to the RMS in, left and right values. Sidechain signal adjustment. Use the sidechain signal to listen using the sidechain equalizer button. If necessary, select the external sidechain source. Adjust the sidechain gain using the sidechain volume control if necessary. It is possible to equalize the sidechain signal. It is helpful to perform this step later. In general, by reducing the amount of low frequencies or making the mid-range more obvious, the compressor will have a less pumping effect and less noticeable distortion. Fast compressor adjustment. Select a sample dynamic function through the Mode menu. The list includes VCA, Varimu, and even digital compressors. Using the threshold control, the gain reduction fast control selects and monitors a level of signal compression. If the compressor is engaged at the master bus level or in a mastery session, try not to exceed 10 dBs of reduction. A typical value is around 3 or 4 dBs of maximum compression. There are no limits to creativity for other uses, but interventions greater than 20 dBs of gain are generally not recommended. You can intervene on attack and release times via the attack and release controls. A low attack and release value allows for more responsive compression with less pumping effect at the expense of harmonic distortion and perceived transient. Take action on the makeup control to balance the input signal with the output signal, according to the relative gain reduction meter. It is interesting to experiment with the power control identified by the small wheel with the letter P. Tiger allows for variable integration of the exponent used in the detector, leading to a more responsive and transparent behavior of the detector as the value increases at the expense of perceived distortion. Caution: CPU consumption will improve considerably when a value other than 1, which is the lowest setting, is selected. Take action on the attack shape modulation control via the ASH mod control. Intuitively, values below the middle position reduce the transient, while higher values emphasize it. If the attack is in the minimum space and the ASH mod is in the minimum, the attack time becomes 0 and the compressor turns into a limiter. Act on the release shape modulation control via the RSH mod control. Values less than the middle position tend to warp the release to make the compressor more aggressive and colorful at the expense of more perceived distortion. In comparison, larger values tend to decrease distortion while making the compressor less aggressive at the same time. If the release is in the minimum position and the RSH mod is also in the minimum, the release time becomes 0 and the compressor becomes a saturator. Intervene on the morphing control via the morph control, which allows you to change the type of dynamic action for compression to a limiter to a saturator. Use the mix control to determine the amount of dry-wet signal. The control helps to create a New York compression effect where the process signal is mixed with the dry signal, effectively reducing the apparent ratio of the compressor. New York compression is particularly valued on drum buses. Intervene on the oversampling value to reduce aliasing and unwanted distortion. In general, an oversampling value of ×2 or higher is recommended for a mastering session in the case of pure compression, when the morph is in the composition. At least ×4 or higher in the case of limiting, when the morph is in the limit position. And at least ×4 in the point of saturation, when morph is in the sat-u position. In the case of a master bus, a half value might be correct. Use the DS button to improve compressor response at critical values for attack and release. Compressor adjustment only. Set the solo compressor to solo via the solo button. Adjust the slow compressor taking into account that the power control is absent, the detector operates in RMS mode only. There is no dual detector as the case of the fast compressor. The hold mode related to the ASH mode control is disabled. Blend adjustment between fast and slow. Lift the solo mode of both compressors and manage the balance between them via the blend control. Managing a dual compressor in parallel allows you to optimize the dynamic action, focusing on handling dynamics in successive steps. Output signal management. It is possible to manage the output signal volume using the output control. This way you can balance the signal by comparing the RMS in meter with the RMS out meter. Adjust the output left and output right controls to balance the output signal according to the RMS out left and right values. With Tiger you can make your tracks sound punchy, balanced and loud. Tame this wild beast in a few simple moves. And that's all for today. Up to next time. Peace.